Participants, shall we start the session? Karthikeyan, shall we start, ma?
Pradeepa ma'am, can we start now?
Yes, sir. Shall we start? With the participants joining? Okay, let's start. So, good evening, everyone. So, before we begin today's session, I'd like to share a simple reminder. Every day may not give us everything we expect, but every day gives us something to learn. And that beautifully reflects the spirit of this FTP learning, growing, and becoming more confident in research day by day. Your consistency, even after work and personal commitments, truly speaks of your dedication, and that dedication itself is a success. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to day 8 of our 10-day international virtual faculty development program on research methodology, statistical tools, and structural equation modeling, organized by the Department of Corporate Secretariship, Shift to Agachan Manuel Jain College, Chennai. Okay. So here in Chennai, it's cool, rainy evening with heavy showers, a perfect mood for learning from home. So good evening, dear all. This is Pradeepa Nagarajan, your host for this evening, and I'm delighted to guide you through today's session. So to begin the session with gratitude and peace, may I request everyone to join for Jain Mahamantra followed by Tamil Thai Valtu.
ॐ नमो वरिहन्ताणं ॐ नमो सिद्धाणम् ॐ नमो यरियाणम् ॐ नमो वच्छायाणम् नमो लोये सवसाहूणम् ईशो पञ्चनमुक्तारो सद्भक्तावत्परासनो मङ्गलाणं च सत्त्वेसिं पठमं हवै मङ्गलम् पठमं हवै मङ्गलम्
எத்திசையும் புகழ் வணங்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறமையந்த செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே வாழ்த்ததுமே.
Thank you. To continue with today's proceedings, I now invite Dr. Geeta, Assistant Professor, Agachan Manuel Jain College, to deliver welcome address and to introduce today's esteemed resource person. Dr. Geeta, please.
Yes, ma'am. A very good evening to one and all present here. On behalf of the Department of Corporate Secretaryship, I'm happy and honored to welcome you all to the 10 Days International Virtual Faculty Development Program on Research Methodology, Statistical Tools, and Structural Equation Modeling. It's my immense pleasure to warmly welcome our esteemed dignitaries, our Secretary, Sri Udan Kumar Chodia, Associate Secretary Sri Hemant P. Chodia, Dean Dr. M. Ramya, Deputy Dean Dr. R. Sureka, and our Director Dr. N. Venkatramanan, whose unwavering support, guidance, and leadership continue to strengthen all our academic endeavors. I am delighted to extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to our today's resource person, Dr. S. Tilakavati, Faculty of Management, SRM Institute of Technology, Science and Technology, KTR Campus, Chennai. We are truly honored by your gracious presence and eagerly look forward to your insightful contribution, madam. I welcome you, madam. I would also like to welcome our fellow faculty participants from various institutions. Your enthusiasm and presence truly enrich this academic journey. Once again, thank you all for joining us today. I wish each one of you a beneficial, enlightening, and meaningful experience throughout this program. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Geeta, for the warm welcome and wonderful introduction. All right, everyone. So, time to switch from relax mode to research mode. Don't worry, coffee, confidence, and curiosity are officially allowed. So, today's topic is all about confirmatory factor analysis, structural equation modeling using AMOS to be handled by our resource person, Dr. Tilakavati, Assistant Professor, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Katangalatur Campus, Chennai. And so keep your notebooks ready, your attention sharp, and yes, your questions ready for the end of the session. So let's dive in. Ma'am, the session is yours now.
Ma'am, Pradeepa ma'am,
Thank
before that,
you.
I'm
Thank
going
you
to
for the
introduce the resource person,
Before
ma'am.
that, ma'am, but Geeta, please try to introduce the resource person, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Tilaka, ma'am, just wait for a minute.
It's our honor. It's my honor to introduce Dr. S. Tilakavati, an accomplished academician and researcher, currently serving as Faculty of Management, SRM Institute of Science and Technology, KTR Campus, Chennai. She holds a PhD in Human Resource Management from Anna University and is a distinguished UGC NET JRF and SRF awardee. She has an impressive research profile with publications in Scopus Indexed, ABDCD listed, Clarivate listed, and UGC journals, including Psychological Trauma, Current Psychology, and the International Journal of Organization Analysis. She also serves as a co project director of an ICSSR funded national research project. With over 8 years of teaching experience, she has handled a wide range of subjects such as organizational behavior, HRM, healthcare analytics, and business data mining. She is proficient in SPSS, AMOS, Smart PLS, and Rapid Miner, making her well equipped to guide researchers and educators. Her academic excellence, research rigor, and dedication to advancing knowledge make her an inspiring resource person for our session today. I welcome you, madam. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for those nice words. At the outset, I would like to thank the Jain College for providing this opportunity, the management, the professors here, and a special thanks to Nirmala ma'am for inviting me for this wonderful session. So, today's, I think, before moving on to our topic, I guess the previous sessions we have seen about what is the need for statistical analysis, what are all the statistical analysis that are to be conducted in SPSS. This could be an extension of it. Okay, I'm not sure whether EFA was conducted, but today we will see. First, start with our presentation. We will see what is causality, what is variables, what is the formative and reflective type of scales, and then what is the basics of SEM, CFA, and path analysis, that is measurement model and structural model. Post which we will be moving on to the real hands-on session with Amos. Okay, so let me share my PPT for you all. Ma'am, please enable me to share the screen, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Karthikeyan, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Already the access has been given, ma'am.
But I'm not able to share the screen, sir. The share icon is not enabled for me.
Kindly check now, ma'am.
Okay.
Tilaka ma'am, just wait for a minute. We'll try to check it. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Some kind of technical glitch.
Can you try now, ma'am?
Yeah, I'm trying again. It is not working. It's not showing me the share option itself. When I'm sharing, the option for sharing the windows are there, but share button is not enabled. Because I need to share the entire screen. If it is just PPT, I can share it with you and ask you to share it. But today I have to give hands-on Amos. So I need to share my entire screen.
Ma'am, but I already added you as a host, ma'am.
Sir, I'm sharing the screenshot for you, possibly maybe in the group. Research. The share button is not enabled. Cancel is active, but share is not active. You can see the screenshot. Or shall I leave and rejoin so that it will get
No,
refreshed?
ma'am. Actually, you have to click that mini window, and then the share button will be enabled to you, ma'am.
No, all the three I'm using, but none
No, no,
it
ma'am.
is.
After click the entire screen, click that window, ma'am.
Okay, sign. Okay,
Now
fine.
it will be. Okay.
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Hope you are all able to see my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, it's visible, ma'am.
Okay, thank you, thank you. So, first today, as I said, our session's objective would be to learn about what is causality, then the different variables in our models, and then reflective and formative type of constructs. Then we will learn about what is structural equation modeling, then measurement model, then structural model, post which we will go on to the hands-on technique. So, what is causality? Causality is nothing but the relationship between one event and another event where the former event is the cause and later event is the effect. It is called as causality. Basically, when we say when there is a relationship between an independent variable and a dependent variable, the independent variable change in independent variable causes some change in the dependent variable. That relationship is called as causality. For example, rise in demand leads to a rise in price, where demand is the independent variable or a single event which is the cause, and because of which, because when the demand increases, there is a simultaneous increase in the price of the product. So here we can find the cause and effect relationship. So this is called as causality. For the causality to exist, there are certain evidences that we must first check in for. So first is covariation between A and B, or co-occurrence between A and B. Here what happens is either A and B occurs together. For example, when we are going to study about the performance of an particular athlete and the impact of their diet. For example, if the athlete has taken the diet adequately in the morning, his performance would be good in the events because he has got adequate nourishment. So when he takes the diet, he has the energy to perform. When he doesn't take the breakfast or the diet required for that particular day, then his energy level goes down, so he doesn't perform well. So A is having the diet and B is performance in the field. So this is the cause and effect relationship we are looking for. So either A and B can occur together certain times. In most of the times, A will occur prior and B will occur following it. If you check, when A doesn't happen, B will not occur. Absence of A will cause the absence of B. If the person doesn't have the diet, then his performance is low. This is an example. If the demand does not increase, the price may not increase. So the absence of the independent variable, absence of the cause, causes the absence of the effect also. So that is another condition. And then third is change in A. When the change in A, again as I said, demand, when the demand increases or decreases, it will have similar effect on the price, similar or opposite effect it can be on the price. So some change in A causes similar or some change in B, then we call there is a causality between A and B. So this is based on the occurrence. Then time order of the event. As I said, certain times both the events may occur simultaneously. Okay, for example, health status of the student and the level of concentration in the class. If the student is healthy, then he would be in a better position to concentrate in the class. Instead, if the student is having a headache, then he may not be in a good position to listen to the class attentively. So both the events occur simultaneously. That is the health status of the student as well as the level of concentration of the student. So here the occurrence happens at the same time, simultaneously. If we take the earlier scenario where intake of food has an impact on the athlete's performance. Here intake of food happens prior, it has to be absorbed and digested, and then energy has to be released. So over a period of time, say 1.5 hours, 2 hours, later on only we will be finding the impact of it. So the event happens earlier, that is the cause happens earlier and the effect happens later. For example, training and its impact on performance. When we are going, since I am an HR faculty, most of the time I would be giving HR scenarios, so please bear with me. So in this case, what I was talking about is, let's take the example of motivation and performance. If the person is internally or externally motivated, it could be reflected on his performance. Let's say the person is externally motivated person. So I need to give some sort of awards, reinforcement, or a hike in a salary. Later on, because of which he gets motivated, and that causes a impact on his productivity increases. So the event occurs first, the cause occurs first, and the effect occurs later. So both the ways it can be, but either it can occur simultaneously or it can also occur, that is cause has to occur first and the effect has to follow. So in these conditions we say causality exists. Third criteria is for the causality to happen is the change in B should be only because of the change in A. Okay. For example, the change in productivity could be because of some other reason also. Okay, it is because the machine has been changed, so the environment is comfortable for the employee, because of which he is working. But we cannot say the change in the productivity happened only because of the rewards that we give. So how to do this? In this scenario, we need to control other environment. So we have to keep the same environment, and just we have to increase the reward system, or we have to increase the pay package and see its impact on performance or productivity. So in this case, we are controlling all the other external variables so that we will be able to prove that change in A has caused the change in B. That is, change in the reward system has caused change in the productivity of the employee. Generally, this is done by experimental studies, where the relationship between the independent variable on the dependent variable is examined or proved based by controlling the external variables. Let's take the example from medical scenario. Okay, experimental studies are basically conducted more in pure medicine and pure science like physics, chemistry, nuclear physics, in all these areas. So let's take the example of a drug testing, where this is a drug developed for diabetes patients. Okay, so we need to prove that taking this drugs causes a reduction in the blood sugar level, or it controls the blood sugar levels. So to ensure that, what we need to do, we need to select two sets of people. That is, you need to have a control group, you need to have an experimental group, and in both the group we have to randomly allocate the patients, and that has to be evenly done. The age, gender, other comorbidities, all those should be similar in both the groups. Then in control group, we will be maintaining, both in control group and experimental group, we will be maintaining similar environment in case of diet, in case of exercise, in case of other activities that are being done, stress level of the patient, all these things should be maintained evenly. That means we are controlling all these factors. And only one we will do is, control group will not be given drug, whereas experimental group will be given the drug. That is the manipulation. Administration of drug is the manipulation. So over a period of time, they will be monitoring the blood sugar of the patients. If in both the category of groups, the pre-test and post-test, there is no change in the blood sugar level, then we should say the drug is not effective. But when you find with the pre-test and post-test sugar levels, after, that is, sugar levels before the administration of the medication and sugar levels after the administration of medication in both the group, if you find the sugar levels are increasingly reduced in experimental group but not in control group, in this case we can say the reduction in blood sugar level is because of the drug. So this is the way we conduct experimental study. But experimental studies are not always possible, because it is too expensive, it is time consuming, and randomization is not possible in all the scenarios, and certain times manipulation becomes unethical or impossible. And another thing is, the phenomenon becomes difficult to observe. Okay, particularly when we take social science researchers or behavioral science research. In these scenarios, we cannot go in for experimental research, because the population would be large. We cannot control the other variables similarly. So in these scenarios, the best opted method is to go for a survey method or questionnaire method, right? So in these cases, with the data, we will be able to prove the causality using structural equation modeling. Structural equation modeling is the primary formal way of confirming the causality between the variables, and that we will go in detail after knowing what is a construct. So is everyone clear with what we have seen till now? Shall we move towards the next slides?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So construct, for example, when we talk about testing our model, first we need to have a theoretical model. Okay, how we build our theoretical model based on theories. Let's take, for example, the theory of broaden and build a theory of positive emotions. In that, what they are saying, positive emotion, and the person has a higher level of positive emotion, it is going to make him perceive the environment to be positive, so he will be performing better, so he will be flourishing. If the person has a lower level of positive emotion or a higher level of negative emotion, he is going to perceive the environment in a negative manner, so he is not going to find the opportunities situations as opportunity. Instead, he is going to see the situations as a threat, so he is going to his productivity or his performance may be reduced. This is what they are trying to say. This is the theory. It explains a phenomenon. So here, what are all the construct? Positive emotion is a construct, negative emotion is a construct, the ability to perform is a construct. So positive emotion, negative emotions are the independent variable, and its impact is going to be assessed on the dependent variable, that is their performance or their level of flourishing. So how this is processing, in between you may have different mediator and moderators could be included according to our research gap area of research. So the constructs, or whether the positive emotion, negative emotion, performance, these are the building blocks based on which we are going to explain a particular phenomena. So constructs are the building blocks of the theory, and based on the constructs only we are also going to propose our models, and we are going to test our proposed model. So these constructs are called as latent construct. These constructs are abstract in nature. See, height can be measured, weight can be measured. Okay, so they are measurable constructs. Whereas when we talk about emotions, when we talk about motivation, when we talk about performance, all these are abstract construct which we cannot be observed immediately, but it represents a phenomenon, how it happens, it's a process. Okay, but those process can be measured with observed variable, that is observable variable is nothing but the indicators, our questions, items, indicators, that is what we call it as observed variable. So latent variable is basically a theoretical construct, it is based on theory, and it cannot be directly observed, but it can be measured with the help of the indicators, that is nothing but our questionnaires. Okay, the items in the questionnaires are called as indicators. The common variance of the indicators explains the empirically the latent construct or the latent variable. So here, as I said, we have two variables. The two variables are observed variables and latent variable. Observed variable is nothing but the questionnaire. So we give the question to the participants, our target audience, and we collect the data. So for all the questions, we have the data. So the questions are the observed variable for which we have the data. That data can be curated as mean, median. You can take the direct data and run the Amos model, as well as you can take the mean or the sum of the constructs observed variables together, and then you can run the Amos model. Okay, so those are the observed variables. Then we have the latent variable. Latent variable are the variables that is nothing but our independent variable and our dependent variable, mediator, moderator, all those are our latent variables. Okay, so that is the basic construct or the building block of our model. So this latent construct has two variants. One is residual variance, another one is error variance. Okay, so when we go to the model, I'll be explaining that. Residual variance is nothing but the variance in indicator is going to cause the variance in the in this case I will explain this with formative and reflective. Okay, in formative type, the indicator variance in the indicator will cause the variator in the latent variable, whereas in reflective type, the variance in the latent variable is going to cause the variance in the indicator variable. So with example, I'll be explaining it. So next aspect is that error variance. See, when we talk about SEM, I'll be explaining that. Okay, so here error variance, error occur in our measurement. So before going to that error statement, I'll be explaining the error. Okay, so there are two types of error basically that happens when we are going to do our data collection, as well as in the questionnaire development. So one is random error, the other one is systemic error. Random error occur because of the wordings of our, how we construct our questionnaire, the way in which we construct our questionnaire, the sentence in the questionnaire, the language used in the questionnaire, the way the questionnaire has been organized, all these could cause random error. So random error are fluctuating in our measurement, and it is an unpredictable variation. You cannot say it will go in one direction. This variation can cause different, how the person is going to perceive the question, the same way he is going to answer. So some may perceive the question positively and give a higher score, some may perceive the question negatively and give a lower score. So it can go in either direction of the magnitude, it can be high or low. Whereas systemic error is a consistent, predictable or repeatable error which happens in the same manner, it happens in the same direction. Okay, so how many ever time you apply the same questionnaire, that error will occur in the similar direction. If it is low, it will always be low. If it is high, it is always going to be higher. This occurs because of the bias in the instrument. For example, when we are going to check the weight, the weighing machine is not adjusted to 0. Instead of 0, if it is going to be always 1, that means it is going to show 1 kg extra for the person's weight. So that is systemic error. Okay, whereas in case of random error, if I see slight variation in the language, okay, or a positively worded question is given, that means the question probe a positive answer, so the question got to be neutral, so that causes random error. The systemic error and random error clear till now? Systemic error is a consistent error, it is predictable, it is repeatable error, it happens in a similar direction. Okay, it is because of the error in the instrument. In our case, survey instrument questionnaire also is an error. So if I have given positively worded questionnaire, always I will get the answer for it in the positive manner. Okay, so that is systemic error. But when I give a vague question, difficult language to understand question, in those scenarios, random error occurs. So random error, how the person is going to perceive the question, they are going to respond in that manner. So it is bidirectional, it can be high or it can be low. It is mostly unpredictable in nature. So now we know that in our instrument there is possibility for some type of error. Certain times you have social desirability bias. What we call social desirability bias is, even though if they are smoking also, the questionnaire, if you ask how frequently you smoke, they tend to avoid it and answering it that they are not a smoker, or they will say I'm a once a while smoker. They won't say that they are a chain smoker. You may not be able to elicit true response. So to avoid that, you have certain things that you have to follow to avoid social desirability bias, like you have to make it anonymous, you should not ask the personal information of the respondents. So there are list of things that we have to follow when we are going to ask question which have the risk of getting social desirability bias. Okay, for example, I gave that. So some sort of bias would be there in our measuring instrument. So that is going to be the error variance that we are going to calculate for each item. So for each item, we need to calculate the variance, and then a common variance will be calculated of all the items, and that gives the variance of our latent variable. So for that, first we need to calculate the variance of the individual item. So the variance of individual item is x, the variance of the true indicator is t, the variance of error is e. So variance of x is equal to variance of t plus variance of e. Actually, we will not be calculating this, the system itself will calculate this, but for the theoretical understanding, I am just explaining it. So next is what type of questionnaires we will be using. We will be using the constructs, right? For measuring the construct, we are using questionnaires. So the constructs measurement tool can be formative or reflective. That's what I said. This is the latent variable. When the latent variable is going to be reflective in nature, for example, I said motivation. Motivation I cannot observe, I cannot measure directly. So how I am going to observe how the student's motivation means how the student is coming to the class. Is the student regular to the class? Is the student engaging in the class? Is the student performing well in the test? All these says the student is highly motivated. So these are reflective in nature. So the questionnaire would be measuring, are you regular to school? Are you getting engaged in your classes? How well you score in the classes? So these are reflective of the construct. So you call it as reflective measurement. So the items, the change in the construct causes the change in the indicator level. If I'm a highly motivated person, then I would say I'm regular to the class. I'll be regular to the class. I'll be listening to the class classfully. I'll be having a greater level of engagement in the class, and I will be scoring. When I'm engaging in the class, possibility is I'm going to score high in the exams. When the person is going to have low level of motivation, their level of engagement is going to be low, the level of performance is going to be low. So the change in the latent construct is going to have a change in the indicators. The direction is from the construct to the indicator. Okay. Whereas in a formative scale, the indicators together form the construct. Okay. In this case, I will give an example for this formative case in the later on situation. For example, organizational performance. It is the market share of the organization. It is the productivity or organizational productivity. It is organizational performance. All these three together forms the organizational level of performance. So I cannot delete any item when it comes to formative. Okay, I will explain each type of construct in detail now. Okay, so in reflective construct, all the measures or items are generally positively correlated. You will be able to calculate the reliability with the help of Cronfex alpha, and you also use composite reliability. As well as I said, it is reflective in nature. The change in the variable, latent variable, will be the cause for the change in the measure or level in the indicators. Person is highly motivated, he will be getting higher scores in the exam. Person is highly motivated, he'll be giving higher scores for engagement. So it is reflective in nature. And according to classical test theory, they say that the observed items are the reflection of the underlying construct. Okay, so here the meaning is that the relationship flows from the construct to the indicators. The later construct are empirically defined by the common variance in the indicator. Whereas in a formative construct, the construct is flowing, that is, from the indicator to the latent construct, the relationship flows. The causality is from the indicator to the latent construct. The indicators are group of indicators which jointly gives meaning to the construct, latent construct. Okay, so here the indicator is the measure of the latent variable. In both the cases, indicators, the questionnaire items, are the way in which we are going to measure the latent variable. But in reflective construct, it is the reflection of the latent variable, whereas in formative construct, these indicators together cause the latent variable, forms the latent variable. Okay, so here if they are saying it is a set of heterogeneous causes for the latent variable. Okay, so in this case, you cannot have a single item questionnaire. Both in reflective and formative, use of single item questionnaire will cause a lot of problem in your reliability and validity tests. Okay, it is always better to have a minimum of 3 items to get a justified model. You should not have under justified model. You can have over justified model. To get a justified model, we should have at least 3 items. So minimum 3 items should be there. You can have any number of items above 3, not less than 3. So the same principle applies for both formative and reflective type of scales. Okay, so again, the formative scales cannot be measured with or validated with covariance based SEM. That is, in AMOS you cannot measure formative scales. So as I said, productivity, profitability, and market share, all these are indicators. These indicators together reveal the organization's performance. And in this case, the error term is not given to the individual indicator. In this case, the error term is given to the latent construct, where they say the collective error of the indicator is accounted for by the error term in the latent construct. So when we are using formative scales, in case of PLS, we will be using the error term only for the latent construct, not for the indicators. So this is a model or a paper published by my senior where he assessed mental impression. That is nothing but the level of elation a person gets when he gets drunk. Okay, so this here he is showing both formative and reflective indicators. Formative indicator is amount of wine or amount of beer or amount of hard liquor. Anything that he drinks, it is going to cause the mental impression. Okay, so when he drinks only, he will get the mental impression. If he is not going to drink, he is not going to get the mental impression. So these forms the formative construct. These are the causes and mental impression is the effect. Whereas when we think about a reflective scale, mental impression, how we can identify in a person. See, when I see a person drinking earlier, then I know what amount he has drunk and to what extent he is getting the elation or mental liberation. But when I don't know to what extent he has drunk, how we can assess? So that becomes reflective. I can get to know his blood alcohol level to know to what extent his brain has got inebriated or elated. Okay, and I can see his driving skills. You can assess the mental functioning through a MRI scan, or you can assess his ability in mental calculation, physical response like walking, running, all these areas you will be able to assess how far he is able to perform. With that, you will be able to know to what extent the person's brain has got elected. So this is reflective. Already it has happened. When the mental elation is high, you will have high blood alcohol level. When the mental elation is high, his driving ability is going to be low. When the mental elation is high, his calculation performance is going to be low. So this is reflective of this indicators. So this part of the scale becomes reflective in nature. So with this, I think you will be able to understand. So when you know the cause and you are going to assess the cause on the construct, it is formative in nature. When you have the construct already being happening and you are going to assess its reflection, it is reflective construct. So now next, moving on to structural equation modeling. As I said, structural equation modeling is the most properly used method in social science and behavioral science for testing the causal model, or when when we are going to a non-experimental mode, we go for this SEM models, structural equation modeling. Okay, so here structural equation modeling is higher than multiple linear regression because first factor is it is a combination of factor analysis and regression analysis. So you can test. That is how why we are having measurement model and structural model. Measurement model takes care of the factor analysis and structural model takes into account both the factor analysis and the linear regression effect. Okay, here structural equation modeling is generally confirmatory in nature. We said the latent variables are theory based. So we use confirmatory factor analysis SEM for standardized scale, already established scale. I want to check whether it is suitable for my country. In that scenario, I will go for confirmatory factor analysis. When I develop the new scale, in this case, first you have to do exploratory factor analysis, find out which items are loading to which construct, get a structure, and based on that, you can go for and perform confirmatory factor analysis to check whether the items that are loaded on the explanatory factor analysis are correctly conforming to that in case of a CFA. Okay, so it is just a confirmatory method. You are not going to explore it in this SEM model. Okay, SEM model is basically theory driven. Okay, you need to, for doing a structural equation modeling, first we need to develop a theoretical model which will be handled in theory building session. I think if it has been conducted, you will know. So you need to have, you identify the research gap, identify your independent variable, identify your dependent variable, and you try to identify the relationship based on the theory, whether it is going to be positive or negative, and then you are going to confirm or validate it with our structural model. So that is the use of structural equation modeling. So structural equation modeling is used to handle complex research models, and we validate it through measured variables, that is our items, to evaluate our constructs, that is our latent constructs. Okay, so this structural equation modeling is superior to linear regression. Why? Means in linear regression we consider all the items are perfect, that means there are no errors in the items. It doesn't take into consideration the error in the item, while structural equation modeling measures the error term and includes the variance in the error term in the measurement model and the structural model to assess the impact of independent variable on the dependent variable. So, as I said, structural equation modeling has two aspects. One is measurement model and another one is structural model. These two are the integral components that makes or adds strength to structural equation modeling. So, through measurement model, we will be checking the validity of the construct. Okay. And through structural pathways analysis, we will be checking the construct effect, that is the impact effect, direct effect, indirect effect of the variables, independent variables and the mediating variables on the dependent variable could be assessed through the structural path analysis. So first we will see about CFA. So the CFA is an extension of the SEM model. Here what we are going to do, we are going to assess the relationship again, but here we are going to assess the relationship between the indicators and the latent variable. How is the relationship between the indicator and the latent variable? Are they conforming to the theoretical structure? Whether the measured items adequately represent the theoretical construct. That is what we are going to check in case of CFA. Whereas, as I said earlier, in EFA, we will try to check whether the which all items are loading to which all construct. Whereas in CFA, we are going to check whether the loaded item or given item for a construct are perfectly loading onto it, whether the theoretical structure is getting confirmed. That is what we will assess in case of CFA. Okay. So here in case of structural model, again we will be assessing the relationship between the variables, but in this case we will be assessing the relationship only between the latent variables. Our latent variable, all our variables in our model are latent variable. Our independent variable, our mediating variable, moderating variable, our dependent variable, all are latent variable which are measured with the help of indicators. So in measurement model, that is CFA, assess the relationship between the indicator and the latent variable, whereas structural path analysis analyze the relationship between one latent variable on the another latent variable. So in this we will be assessing the direct relationship, indirect relation or direct effect, indirect effect and the total effect. I have already explained what is latent variable. The next component is path. So the path is the arrows that is indicating which is the cause variable, which is the indicating effect variable. That is, IV would be the cause, dependent variable is the effect. So the arrow should start from the cause and end in the dependent variable. So that is the role of the arrows, and based on the role of the arrows only you will be able to calculate your the model will be evaluated in AMOS. So that is very essential. So the purpose of running structural equation modeling is basically to validate your scale, that it conforms to the structural theoretical structure of the construct, and second is to test the theoretical hypothesis. Whatever model we have proposed, that we are going to validate it with structural path analysis, and then we will identify the direction and magnitude of the relationship or the effect on the independent variable on dependent variable. So strength and significance, as well as the strength and direction, whether it is positive or negative, that will also be evaluated in structural equation modeling. And we can also evaluate mediation, moderation in structural equation modeling. So in this components, if you see, you have exogenous latent variable and endogenous latent variable. Why we got to know about exogenous and endogenous means, endogenous variable we need to give error terms, and we need to calculate the error there on the latent variable itself. So we need to know what is an exogenous variable, what is an endogenous variable. Any variable which is going to cause some effect on other variable, whereas it is not influenced by any other variable, is called your exogenous variable. That is nothing but your independent variable. Independent variable is the one which is going to cause some change in the other variable, either it could be a mediator or a dependent variable, whereas this independent variable is not influenced by any other variable. If you take an example of leadership, and leadership impact on employee performance and employee engagement, here you have one IV and two DV. The first IV is the leadership, only one IV, and you have two DV. One DV is employee performance, the other DV could be your employee engagement. Okay, so employee performance, employee engagement becomes the dependent variable, that is the endogenous variable. Later on, this can be modified and given as leadership on employee engagement on performance. Again, in both the cases, independent variable, that is leadership is having an impact on employee engagement, leadership is having an impact on dependent variable, that is performance. So in this case, leadership is an exogenous variable, and employee engagement and employee performance are going to be the endogenous variables. And then next important component of structural model is particularly path coefficient, that is the beta value. Based on the beta value only, we will be able to say what is the effect of leadership on employee engagement, what is the effect of leadership on employee performance, to what extent. And this generally we will take only the standardized beta coefficients, okay, path coefficients. The standardized path coefficient will be lying between +1 and -1. If the values are about 1 in your model, then there is error in your model. Unstandardized path coefficient will be greater than 1, but standardized path coefficient should be within 0 to 1, 0 to ±1. And then next is the error term. As I said, error term is given to assess the error in the latent variable. So the types of effect is direct effect. Direct effect is the, as I said in the model I have explained, leadership to employee engagement to employee performance. When I assess only one path, leadership to employee engagement, then you are assessing leadership as independent variable and employee engagement as dependent variable. Then in this case, it is a direct relationship. When I am going to assess leadership's effect on employee performance via employee engagement, that means I am assessing the path through another variable, that becomes indirect effect. Okay, when we are going to add both direct effect and indirect effect, we will be getting total effect. So in our structural model, we have to assess all the three effects when we are checking a mediation model. So this is the equation for our structural model. In this case, this is not necessary for us to know, because it will be calculated automatically by the software. But for our knowledge, I have just shared this equation. Here, neuter is the vector for endogenous latent variable, and you have vector for exogenous latent variable. So endogenous variable is effect is measured by calculating the matrix of coefficient of endogenous variable and vector of endogenous variable plus matrix of coefficient of exogenous variable to endogenous variable and vector of exogenous latent variable plus the error term. So this is how the software calculates the values. Now the steps in SEM model. So this is the most important thing what we will be doing in the SEM model. The earlier one are the basic thing that is done by the machine itself. So first we need to have a collected data, we need to prepare the data, clean the data. If missing values are there, we have to act on that. If there are any outliers, we have to remove that. We have to clean the data, keep the data ready. Once the cleaning of the data is done, the next step is our specification. In model specification, what we do is nothing but we will be that is, we will be stating which is our independent variable, which is our dependent variable. The flow of arrows will be according to our model, which is our independent variable, which is our dependent variable. For dependent variable, you need to give error terms. So you will be specifying your variables, which is independent, which is dependent, what is the direction of the error flow. All these would be done in the model. Identification is, we will be examining whether the information given is enough to estimate the parameters. That is, whether the items have adequate number of questions. Okay, as I said, whether we are having a justified model or a unjustified model. In case of justified model, already I said that latent variable should be measured by minimum of a 3 indicator item. Above 3, you can have any number of item. If it is having above 3 or above 3, then it is an identified variable. So we will also be checking in for the direction, and we will be also we'll be also constraining certain paths. So that will be done in the identification part. Next comes the parameter estimation. So what method we are going to use for estimation? Generally, maximum likelihood estimation is used in AMOS. Other than maximum likelihood estimation, few scenario we will be using generalized least square. These are the most commonly used estimation methods. Okay, so you will select the estimation method. Then in the output, you will be selecting what are all the estimates that you need. So you will be selecting all those things and fixing it in the estimation. The next step is you will be running the model. Once you run the model, you will get the fitness. You will go and check the output. So in the output, first we will be looking in for fit indices. So if the model is having a good fit, you will check in for the beta value, other things. You will interpret the model and you will be doing the reporting. If the model fit is poor, we have to go and check few areas. What is the modification indices? Whether we have the connected the model correctly, whether the latent variables are given the weightage correctly. So all those, whether I have identified the model correctly. So re-specification will happen, re-identification will happen. So it becomes a continuous cycle. Then you will do the estimation, and then you will be evaluating the model for the model fit. So when we are going to evaluate the model for model fit, here we have two types of model fit indices. One is global model fit assessment, the other one is local model fit assessment. The global model fit assessment looks in for the model fit values. That is, our absolute model fit value is our chi-square value, RMNCA value, and SRMR value. The required standard values I will be explaining when I am showing the model. Okay. And then the incremental fit values are our CFI and TLI. And then our parsimony variable we will be seeing for CMN by DF. That is nothing but our chi-square value by difference. Okay. So this we will check in for, and we will check for P-close also. So these are the variables that we will be using to assess whether the model is fit or not. So the indices that are used to assess the model fit is called as global fit assessment. Okay. Next is local fit assessment. Local fit assessment is nothing but the structural. In the structural model, we will be checking whether the path is significant. P value we will be checking. Then we will be checking for the factor loadings. In measurement model, we will be looking in for P value and our factor loadings. In case of a structural model, we will be looking in for P value, T value, as well as we will be looking in for our factor loadings, and we will look in for the correlation levels, and then we will be looking in for the beta values to assess the strength and direction of the path. So these values are called as local fit assessment. Okay. So with this, I think we can go in for the hands-on. Okay. So in this case, I am showing my AMOS screen. Is my AMOS screen visible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. It is
Yes.
visible.
Okay. So first, this is our, if you install, you will get the screen like this. So we will use the square box for our indicators, that is items. Okay, we will be using this ellipse for our latent construct. You can drag and draw one by one, but it becomes a tedious one and takes time. Instead, you have one operator, this, where you can select your latent size, variable size, and after that, if you click how many ever indicator you want, you will be able to get it. So, for example, let's take once again, which is the set of data. Okay, here I have used my paper. So I'll share my paper first and I'll explain this, then it will be easy. So this paper is published, and in this paper I have 3 variables. Okay, one is COVID-19 impact, the other one is parental stress, and another one is employee flourishing. So what happened during the COVID-19 breakdown? We all know we were in a lockdown. So it becomes a stress. Schools, everything was closed, and people were working at the same time. They have to take care of the kids. So as per my theoretical model, COVID-19 impact increases parental stress. Because it is increasing the parental stress, it is going to have more impact on employee flourishing. Employee flourishing is nothing but highest point of employee well-being in the employee well-being spectrum. Okay, so COVID-19 in general, they said earlier studies that it is having negative effect on mental well-being. I wanted to explore its impact on employee flourishing. So direct effect is COVID-19's impact on employee flourishing, and indirect effect is COVID-19 impact on parental stress. So this is my model, and for which I had the scale. Okay, so till now I have not explained what is a first order factor and a second order factor. That I will explain now. Okay, so with the diagram here, in my questionnaire, I had measured COVID-19 impact with 3 subdimensions. Okay, so subdimension 1 is financial impact, that was measured with 4 items. Subdimension 2, psychological impact, that was measured with 4 items. Subdimension 3, that is social impact, that was measured with 2 items. That means for measuring my single latent independent variable, that is COVID-19 impact, I am using 3 subdimensions. Okay, whereas, so this is when a latent variable have subdimensions and then indicator, you call it as a second order factor, whereas my employee flourishing is a first order factor, where this employee flourishing is directly measured by the indicators. So in this case, employee flourishing has 8 items. Okay, parental stress has 19 items, which has 3 subdivisions. Again, one is parent-child relationship problem, parenting problem, parent role restriction. And COVID-19, it has 3 subdimension: financial impact, psychological impact, and social impact. So in this scenario, first I will show with the scale empty new Amos field. I will show how to construct the scale, then how to validate each step. Okay, so have selected one latent variable. In this I need financial impact 4 items, and then see, I can do one more thing is I can duplicate it. I can use the duplicate button, I can use it. The other one, I have only 2 items. So what I'm going to do is, again I'm going to select, I'm going to draw 2 indicators. So I'm going to, if I you can use Control Z to revert. Okay, so next, when I want to rotate, I can rotate this scale in whichever direction you want, so that you can design your model in a neat manner. So I'm going to move this with this red button is a move icon, this circle is a rotate icon, this rectangle button with red dots is resizing button, this one is duplicate. This I can select independent box I want to select. I can click this and select the independent particular box, and I can do the moving and resizing. If I want to select all, I can click, everything will get selected. If I want to deselect, we can select the closed hand, it will deselect everything. So these are the buttons, and here this is magic wand, it makes our model in a more decent and good looking manner. Others are, this is our data set importing icon. So you have to go click the file button, whichever button you have the data, you can go select the data set, you can open it. Okay, so the data set will fall in, you have to give okay. So the data is imported now, and then I can, once I have my model is ready, whatever estimate we have to do, we have to select the estimate here. This is the run button. Once you run, the model here will turn red here, this indicator arrow, and then you can go and click the output. Okay, so now we need to give the labels. How to give the labels? Just right click, you will get, or you can double click. Okay, you can double click, you will get the object property. In the text, if I type financial independent impact, you will get it. Okay, so you will be able to give label. In this case already, because it is a set developed, the path is already constrained. If you are going to draw model, you need to construct the path, means you have to select the arrow, and then you have to give the, go to parameters, select regression weight as 1. This is how we constrain the path. In this case already 1 is constrained, so I am leaving that. Okay, and I can go, and this is the data set. You will get whatever data you're having, that will be here. So you can drag and drop the data set there. And you can use the plugins. You can resize the observed variable according to the size, it will happen. Again, you can use plugins to give the error terms. Okay, and we will use plugins to calculate our SRMR. SRMR alone, we have to use the plugin to calculate. Okay, so if I'm going to draw for the entire model, it will take time, so I'm going to use this already drawn model. Here, if you see, I'm going to show you both the way. This is for a independent variable alone. For a single construct alone, you can do the measurement model, as well as for your combined model also, you can draw your measurement model. Once again, this is the combined model. So first I'll explain with this single model. So we have drawn the model. Now the model is ready. Next, what I have to do, I have to go and select the estimate. Now we are going to run CFA. For CFA, I'm using maximum likelihood and fit with saturated and independent model. I'm going to go for output. For output, you need minimization history, you need standardized estimates, you need squared multiple correlation, you need residual moments, and then modification indices. Okay, covariance estimate is not needed, but we need correlation estimate to calculate our discriminant and convergent validities. Okay, if your data set is small, we can use bootstrapping here. You can click bootstrapping and you can choose n number of items that you need in your analysis. In my case, already I have more than 400 data, so I'm not using bootstrapping. If you have, say, 150 data, I want to run confirmatory factor analysis, I can use bootstrapping with 1000 data or 500 data. My data sets subsamples would be created and the data sample size would be increased. That is the impact of bootstrapping. So now in the output we have selected, I'm closing. I also need SRMR for calculating the fit. So I am choosing SRMR, I am pushing it this side, I am running the model now. Whenever we run the model, most of the time we may not get a perfect model fit. In this case, the SRMR should be less than 0.06, it is less than so it is 0.3. which is good. That means SRMR is under our fit and disease criteria. Now I can click this button and get the estimates here. What I get here is now unstandardized estimate. If I click standardized estimate here, I'm getting the standardized estimate. We can also check in for the factor loading. This is already constrained, so it is showing one. Other factor loading here, sub dimensions loading on to parental stress. If you see, it is 0.93, 0.98, everything is wonderful. Here, if I see the indicators loading on to parent relation problem, parent child relationship problem, and then other things, it is again higher than 0.7. But in this case, if you see the third part, that is PRR 5 loading to PRR is 0.5. Generally 0.5 is acceptable, but it will impact our model. So whether to keep a item or not, we will be checking with this also. But you should justify it with the when you are writing the paper, you have to justify the removal of an indicator with theoretical justification need to be given. So now we are going to check the model output. So in the model output, here if you go to the model fit, the CMN by DF should be less than or equal to 3. It is less than 3, it is 2.2, it is good. Whereas GFI, goodness of fit index 6, and AGFI, if you see, it is less than 0.9. It is near 0.9, but it is less than 0.9. And if I see CFI is holding good, only 0.958, and TLI is not 0.958, NFI is above 0.9. Generally, according to Hare et al. 9, if it is above 0.9, it is acceptable limit. Whereas according to 2019 version, they say about 0.95 is acceptable. So if after running your model, even after doing the correction, if your model indices are not rising, you can refer to 2009 reference. Okay. So here we have checked for this indices, and then now I am going to check for RMSE. RMSEA should be less than 0.8. It is less than 0.07. But see the P close. P close is very terrible. P close should be greater than 5. If it is close to 1, it is excellent. For minimum, it should be greater than 5, but it is less than 1. So now where is the issue in the model? We can check with two area. One is modification indices. Okay, I am going and checking here. If you see, here it says the modification indices between 26 and 32 is high, it is 22, and between 24 and 26 it is 17. Now we will go and check the model. Okay, sorry, this is not the output of this. I guess this is the output of this. And if the error terms are high, we will go and check in the model. So in the model, my 23 and 36. Here it is 36. 23 is here. Within the construct, if you are getting a correlation term, we can do it. We can correlate it. But between the variables, we cannot do. So in this case, I cannot take into consideration this modification, higher value in modification indices. Okay, if example, the higher value in the modification indices is between say this 24 and 23, I can correlate it and you can check for the value. Now in this case, I am not able to choose with the help of this one. So I go in for residual covariance. In residual covariance, you have to check if any value is above 0.8. In this case, none of the variable is having above 0.8. So in this case, this variable alone is having above 0.8, that is PCR1 is fine. We have to check. So everything is less than 0.8. So in this case, I need not delete any item. I can keep it as such. I can do it, use it. So now I am going to check for overall model. So overall model, the same thing we will do, and once you run the model, you get the results in the model itself. Here I am going to check for standardized estimate. Now again in the standardized with estimate, everything is above 0.9 here. Everything is holding good, above 0.7 here. Here also it is about 0.7. In this case, here this is 0.48. Okay, which is a issue in our model. We can check it. Okay, so in this case, I am going to check in whether I have given residual moment. I have not given, so I have checked it. I am running the model again. If the model is a large model with a large data set, it may take some time. Okay, checked in for standardized regression weight. Now go to the output. So here this is the model note for the model. Here the degree of freedom is good. You have 604 is the degree of freedom, and chi-square is also significant. Okay, positive. So model note initially is good. We are going for model fit. Model fit is also good. You are having less than 3. It is 1.4. RMR is good. It is less than 0.6. But GFI, AGFI is on a little lower side, whereas CFI, TLI, and is good. Let me go and check in for P close. P close is also good. RMNCA is good. But we didn't check when we are running the model. I didn't check for the standardized SRMR. Standardized SRMR, I have to calculate this. So I'm running the model again. So the standardized SRMR is also very good. So I am not going to remove any item. The scale is very good. Now in this scale, I have told how to get the values for this. Next, you need to see the factor loadings, right? Where to get the factor loadings? Go to the estimates, click the estimates. Under estimates, under scalar estimate, if you go, you will get the standardized regression weights. So this is the standardized regression weights. I have also checked for correlation. Why I checked for correlation? Now I will tell you. See, you got to use, do the calculation for discriminant and convergent validity, right? That is again automated software is there. You have to go to your browser. Okay. See, I have given it as James Gaskin CFA. If you just give, you will get StatWiki. James Gaskin StatWiki. You just click it, you will get this homepage. So in this homepage, if you scroll, you will get a statistical tool package. You need to download this tools package. Okay. I am installing, downloading it and using it. Then what in mine antivirus is there, so it is not allowing. I'll just show it. I need to disable it. So statistical tool package I am opening. In this, go to validity master. In the validity master, you copy paste the content from our output. So here first one required is correlation table. So in this model, I am going to the model output. Here I need to go to estimate, scalar estimate, under scalar estimate correlation table. I'll get the correlation table. You select it, right click it, copy it, and then go to the macro book and paste it in the Excel. I have to enable it. Okay. You got to paste it. Same way you paste the standardized regression weight, that is factor loadings. Okay. Go to the estimates, scalar estimates, standardized regression weight, select it, and then copy it. Right click and copy it, and then paste it in the standard regression weights. And then if we click read covet, it will run and give us the for me, I have to enable it. My antivirus is not allowing to run this package, but you have to enable the option and do it. If you run, you will get the this CR value, AV value, MSV value will be calculated from that, and you will also get one more table, this table. This is the intercorrelation between the variables, and this is the square root of the factor loading. The square root of the factor loading should be higher than that of the intercorrelation of the variable. In this case, it is there, so discriminant validity is there. In this case, if you go and check the convergent validity, it is AV is above 0.5. All the factor loadings here, mean is there, factor loading where above 0.7 already I have shown there. Okay, and then the AV is greater than MSV, as well as this is the older criteria for discriminant validity. Newer criteria is the square root of factor loading should be higher than the intercorrelation. So here the correlation is lower than the factor loading, square root of the factor loading. So in this case, both discriminant and convergent validity is calculated. So with this, our confirmatory factor analysis is done. Now moving to our this one, structural path. Once you have drawn the model, you can draw the structural path by just deleting it, deleting this covariance. And you can draw the arrows. Independent to mediator, mediator to dependent, independent to dependent. So this is what I have done, and I have run the model. So once you run this model, in this case in estimate, we have to click minimization history, standardization estimate, square correlation, squared multiple correlation, residual moment, modification. You need to have indirect, direct, and total effect, and you need to have the correlation of estimates. Okay, I've chosen all. I've run the model. So once you run the model, the model will run and you will get outputs. Okay, so degree of freedom is 606. Okay, this is high. In this case, now moving on to the model fit. Okay, once again, I think I have made some error. This one. Give me a minute. Here I have. So here is the model note. The model note says that degree of freedom is 393, and your chi-square is also significant, p-value is significant. So we are moving to the model fit. Model fit Siemens by df is significant, it is less than 3, and RMR is not significant, it is higher. GFI and AGFI is not good, CFI is good, PLI is nearing the point, and P close is also not good. All these are terrible. Now, what we can do to this case is I can go in for modification indices and I can check is there any terrible variable there. But in this case, it's under limit only, you can ignore. So, under estimates, you go under matrix, you go to residual and we have to check. In this case, leave this part, but same way you have to, like a measurement model, you have to check the fit indices, and with modification indices I can draw the covariance and I can check here, like how we have drawn the covariance between the arrow. It was asking for covariance between these two, so let us try for a covariance here and run the model. So it shows error. Okay, so I am removing it, I am going with my earlier model. So in this case, here we will be looking in for now the estimates. Scalar estimates gives the regression weight detail, matrix estimates. One second, give me a second. Fine. I have to import the data. I'll show another model. This is again my published paper. So similarly, three variables here. Okay, one independent, one dependent, and one mediator. So in this case, now we will, after checking the model indices, we will be going in for estimates. Okay, so under estimates we will be using matrix. In this we will be checking for direct effect first. Okay, standardized direct effect, if you have used bootstrapping, it will give bootstrapped estimates also. Okay, I'm getting bootstrapped estimate here. So here if you see, direct impact of IV on mediator is 0.558, whereas that is 55%, it has have impact on my mediator, whereas the independent variable has 46% impact on the dependent variable. Okay, this is the direct effect that we have seen. Next is the indirect effect, standardized indirect effect. Again, standardized indirect effect, bootstrapping I am checking. Here indirect effect is cognitive outputs, indirect effect on my independent variables, indirect effect on my dependent variable via my mediator. So for mediator you will not have indirect effect, only for the dependent variable you will have the indirect effect. It is 0.30. Okay, this is the indirect effect. So what is the total effect now? Standardized total effect, if you check, the standardized total effect is effect on see, the effect on LS has increased because it is In on mediator, it is direct effect alone, whereas on your dependent variable, it is the impact of both direct and indirect. So it has increased from 0.467 to 0.497. So 0.497 is my total effect. Okay, so this is what you will check. You will check for direct effect, you will check for indirect effect, and you will check for this one also. Okay, for example, I am showing the moderated mediation effect, how to calculate. Okay, in this model, experience I am using as a moderator, direct relationship, and for that I need to first find an intercept value, that is cognitive outputs impact on experience, that you have to calculate. After you impute this, you have to include that in the moderator, and you have to connect it to the dependent variable and run the model. As such, you will get the impacts. But for moderated mediation, I would advise you all to use for moderated mediation, I would advise you all to use process macro. Process macro is an extension of SPSS. So you can, it is a plugin. You can install that plugin. You have to download and install that plugin in your SPSS. There you will be able to do the moderated mediation analysis. There you have to specify the sorry there you have to specify the model number. If you use Hayes book, in the Hayes book, in the last section, they would have been given 78 models. So our proposed model will definitely fit into one of those 78 model. You have to choose the model number, you have to impute the, drag and drop the independent variable, dependent variable, and mediator, moderator, and you have to select the options. And if you run, like how you are getting other results like linear regression, your exploratory factor analysis, you will also get moderated mediation analysis in SPSS. You can use, for if you are going for moderated mediation, use process macro. If you are going to only run mediation analysis, or if you are only going to use moderation analysis, you can use SEM. Any doubt in this till now?
Ma'am, it's a clear explanation you have given. So, big thank you for that hands on and insightful session. So, I think learning by doing truly makes concept click, and today's session was a perfect example of that. So, we really appreciate the time, effort, and the practical approach. It has made understanding so much easier and engaging. So, a big thank you for that.
Thank you, ma'am.
So now it's time for the participants. The spotlight is on you. So feel free to type your questions in the chat box, or you can raise the hand to ask live, or even act them out. So we promise to catch every single one. So is there any questions, dear participants?
I think I've overloaded in this 1 hour, but the thing is, for taking SEM and CFA together, it is a little tedious task.
Yes,
Generally, they
we
do
do
it as
understand.
a 2 days or 3 days workshop,
Yes,
but I
ma'am,
have
definitely.
to concise it to 1.5. I think I have
Yes.
exceeded my time. I am extremely sorry for
No,
that.
no, the topic is in such a way that we have given, I think, a short duration. Uh, so next time might be, so we have to,
Split this into two
yeah,
topics.
extend the
Noted.
time. Yes, so that the resource person have enough time to explain a lot of things It will be more insightful to gain more knowledge on it. So this is what.
Pradeepa ma'am, excuse me, ma'am. Pradeepa
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
There is a question in the chat box. Tilaka ma'am, could you please answer that question?
Can you please read
I'll
the
just,
question, ma'am?
yeah, please. Comparing with standardized and unstandardized, discuss in the thesis.
Sorry, ma'am.
So this is a question raised by Professor Ramoji.
Okay.
He has stated, first question he has raised is give the measurements Excel file to check or keyword once again. This is the first question. Okay.
Okay.
So he has asked for measurements in Excel file to check or keyword once again. This is the first question. Second question is,
Generally, we need to clean our data. First question I would like to answer is generally we have to clean the data in the Excel, have the Excel, and then we have to import the data to SPSS or AMOS. Both the thing we'll be importing the Excel data only. So the work has to be done in Excel itself clearly. You have to do the labeling, clearing, and handling of missing data, handling of outliers. Everything has to be done in the Excel sheet. Then we will be able to import it directly to the AMOS. We'll not do anything in AMOS. Variable naming is done in AMOS. That is what I have shown in the hands-on session.
the same person has raised one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Comparing with standardized and unstandardized, discuss in the thesis. Madam, give the CFA that Excel file word, keyword.
I could not get the question, ma'am.
Even I don't. Sir Ramu, sir,
I
if you are
think,
here, please, could you please elaborate the question? Even I don't understand.
uh,
Uh,
sir,
the question
Ramuji,
is,
please unmute.
Ramuji, sir, Mr. Ramu. Okay, there is one more question
Yes.
from Salimullah Nizar, sir. Is asking, like, I want to know when we have formative variable, do we need a global item for measuring conversion validity or not? As example, we measure service quality by reliability, responsiveness, empathy, tangibility, that each of which has 3 or 4 items. And these dimensions form service quality. Do we need a global item that reflects service quality? He's asking whether we require a global item for
Global
measuring
item
a
means
service quality.
is asking for a single item questionnaire. Generally, if we take single item questionnaire, that becomes a problem when we are going to run our model. So it is always better not to have a global single item. See, in the same case, when I have used in my model, I have used a 5 item scale in my model for LS. Okay, same you have a single item global item scale for a LS also. But if you prefer that, we will get concerns with relation to validity when we are doing our model validation. So it is always better to go for multi-item scale, that is scales with more than 3 items. If you are having a second order factor, it is well and good. You can run the confirmatory factor analysis in AMAS. It gives
Okay.
us a better result.
Okay. The same person has raised one more question. What are the main steps involved in SIM? And can you briefly explain each step shown in your flowchart, such as model specification, identification, estimation, evaluation, and modification, with a simple example relevant to a subject area? But I think, sir,
That is the session that
Mr.
I have handled actually.
Exactly. Mr. Suhas Aital, we'll try to give you the resource person phone number. If you have any kind of doubts relating to the same model, you can directly contact her, because we are running short of time already. It is 6. We are across the time. Okay. So please excuse us. Okay. So we'll try to wind off. Mr. Ramu has raised one more question. Madam, given one reference for CFA enough to check a result. I am requesting once again.
Reference, ma'am?
Madam, given one reference for CFA information to check the result. I requesting
Results,
once again.
James Gaskin. I said no, ma'am. I
Yeah.
have shown.
See,
He is
already
the
the
best
resource person
person
has given.
who.
Yes. Already the resource person has given you James Caspin CFA model. All the, she has
His website,
shown a
if you
website.
go, he would have
Yeah.
explained it in detail. James
Ah.
Gaskin.
Okay. Anyway, this will be. Anyway, you will have our YouTube live session will be there. No. So later on, you can go through the YouTube session, and then you can. Said what you can do whatever she has said. Okay, sir. Okay, thank you. Pradeepa, ma'am,
Yes, ma'am.
please continue, ma'am.
So, ma'am, Dr. Tilakavati, who is from SRM, Institute of Science and Technology, a big thank you for patiently guiding us through our queries. Whatever the question has been asked or posted in the chat box. So it's a, very insightful session. So, as we approach the end of the session, a gentle reminder the feedback link will be posted in the chat box after the group photo. So, we request all the participants to fill it as it is essential for certification. So, before we conclude, may I request everyone to please turn on your cameras for a quick virtual group photo with our resource person for the day. So, and your smiles and presence will be wonderful memory for the day for this learning journey. So, please turn on your cameras with a good smile, dear audience. Is it over,
Yes,
Karthikeyan sir?
ma'am.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
thank you, sir. So that was lovely. So, to formally conclude the program, I now invite Dr. M. Geeta, Assistant Professor, Agachan Manual Jain College, to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, Dr. Geeta.
Yes. Before that, I would add some points. For the participants who have any doubts relating to SEM or CFA, we will please contact us. We will give the mobile number of the resource person. You can directly contact her for further clarification. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am, definitely. So, uh, resource person for the day, we seek such type of approachable way. If there is any doubts, we can approach you. So, now over to you, Dr. Geeta, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. On behalf of the Department of Corporate Secretaryship, it gives me an immense pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for the eighth day of our 10 days international virtual FDP. First and foremost, I extend a sincere gratitude to our respected dignitaries for their continued support, encouragement, and confidence in all our academic endeavors. I would also like to place on record our sincere appreciation goes to Dr. M. Kaveri, facilitator and convener of this 10 days FDP, for her dedicated efforts, meticulous coordination, and unwavering commitment in steering this program towards excellence. A special and heartfelt word of appreciation to our esteemed resource person for today's session, Dr. S. Tilagavati. Madam, your session on CFA and SEM using AMOS was truly insightful, well structured, and highly impactful. You explained complex statistical concepts with remarkable clarity, making advanced analytical techniques accessible and meaningful to all the participants. Your clear illustrations, systematic demonstrations, and emphasis on interpretation enabled us to understand model fit, factor loadings, measurement validation, and structural relationship with confidence. The practical way in which you connected theory to real time research application has strengthened our ability to execute rigorous and methodologically sound research. I also extend my deepest thanks to all our faculty participants from various institutions. Your active engagement, thoughtful questions, and enthusiasm add immense value to this FDP and make each session more meaningful. A sincere appreciation goes to Dr. B. Karthikeyan for his unwavering technical support in ensuring the smooth conduct of every session, and to Dr. N. Pradeepa for a lively and seamless comparing that brought warmth and continuity to today's program. Once again, I extend my heartfelt thanks to everyone present here. Your support and participation makes this FDP a truly enriching learning experience. Thank you all once again.
Well, that's true, Dr. Geeta. So, a big and a special thanks to our resource person, Dr. Tilakavati, Assistant Professor, SRM Institute of Science and Technology. and to all our participants for showing up with your dedication. So with this, day 8 is wrapped. So remember, tiny steps every day add up to big leaps. So keep going, even if it feels like a slow snail race. So we need to be keep the tiny steps every day. Okay. So this is Pradeepa Nagarajan signing off. So please sleep well, recharge, and see you in the next session. Take care. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Thank
Thank
you.
you all. Take care.